Hello, and welcome to a brand new episode of John the PM podcast, where we believe that managing projects is not just a job, but a way of life. In today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about risk. First thing, the risk has not occurred. If a risk does occur, then it becomes an issue, or some people may actually call it an incident. So risk may or may not actually happen. That is a very, very important distinction I like to just kind of clear up on the very, very front end. We don't know if it's going to occur. Now, there's going to be two types of risk. There's going to be a negative risk, those are threats, or there can be a positive risk, those are opportunities. As project managers, we usually tend to think in the negative. In other words, what's going to go wrong? What are the threats that could occur? However, we should also think about opportunities. What are opportunities? These are positive risks. These are things that, if they go well, we should be super excited and say, thank you. This is awesome in that regards. However, if you do not plan for opportunities, then those opportunities can, in fact, become a problem. In DoD military, most people have heard of catastrophic success. In other words, the attack has gone so well that perhaps we outstripped our supply lines or things of that nature, and therefore it becomes a catastrophic failure. It happens. On the other side, let's say on the private sector side, commercial side, they just as an example here, actually it's pretty recent. I was in a local bookstore here in my city, hometown here in Virginia Beach, and I kind of walked up to the counter, and the person that was kind of, helping me to buy some books and things like that. They looked a little bit stressed out, and I say, "Hey, what's up?" And they said, "Wow, there's just a lot of people in here." And I looked at him and I said, "Well, isn't that a good thing?" And he said, "Well, yeah, sort of, except," and hear this, corporate had sent out an advertising, and when they advertised this discount sale, they forgot to tell the stores. And when they didn't tell the stores, we did not plan or adequately staff our counters to be ready for the anticipated customers that may or may not come in. In this case, they did come in, and that has really caused us a lot of problems. And quite frankly, I'm not looking forward to some of the reviews that we may get, tomorrow or things when people are dissatisfied with their customer service. I felt the gentleman's pain. I did, go ahead and buy the book. I did actually have to stay in line a little bit longer, but then actually after he told me that, my heart went out to him, on those places. Bottom line, think about the opportunities, have a plan for it. Let's flip the script back a little bit, roll it back a little bit, and let's talk about negative risk. This, quite frankly, is what most project managers really think about, most of the time, in those areas. Why, again, we just tend to think of, everything that can go wrong. The vendor didn't do this, the customer went this way, the product didn't work as designed, whatever may occur. So we tend to really, kind of think about those pieces on that side. Doing the risk planning is essential. Why? For a few reasons. One is, let's just assume that you have a bad plan. I mean, it's a bad plan. If you do the risk analysis and kind of go through the processes, you are going to back up into a pretty good plan. So that in of itself, should let people know you ought to always do risk planning. Does it have to be super, complicated? The answer is no. Just with your team, go and sit down and just write out, hey, what are all the things that can go wrong? Don't forget that, note the things that can go right, but we're on the negative side. But, just list all the things that can go wrong. And then just very quickly rank order them in accordance with probability and impact. Probability, what is the odds of this actually occurring? Impact, what is the consequence if this were to occur? For both of them, I use a 1 to 5. Why 1 to 5? Because it provides enough of a spread so that it's relevant. If I were to use 1 to 10, then we would be arguing between 6 and 7, 2 and 3. If I was to use 1 to 3, then everything would just become 2. So 1 to 5 is very good. On this exercise, I would go by very, very quickly because, again, you really don't want to get into too much of a debate about it, maybe some clarification questions, but you kind of want to move fairly quickly. So on the probability, if it's likely to occur, then you would assign it a 5. If you don't think it's really going to occur, you would assign it a 1. And then on the impact, if the impact or the consequence was going to be very, very high, you would assign it a 5. But if the impact of it was very, very low, you might assign it a 1. So on that side. So that's how I would do that. And the beauty of that is that you can multiply those two numbers, probability and impact, come up with a bigger number, PI. And what that allows you to do is to rank order the threats. So now you know what to really spend more of your time on or thinking about. That is a really great tool that's been helpful and allows teams to kind of move forward without getting mired in too much of nuances and things of that nature. Why? Because the discussion really should be on what do we do for the high probability and high impacts. And that's where we get into the analysis or the responses. Okay. So just to kind of recap, just real quick, the very first step, list, identify all of the risks. The second step is going to be analyze all of the risk using probability and impact. And then the third step is going to be the responses. What are going to be the responses? The way I like to frame it is 4 plus 1. What do I mean by that? The four responses are transfer, accept, mitigate, eliminate. I usually use the mnemonic tame. So we want to tame the risk. Plus 1 is escalate. So let's use an example. Let's use an outdoor wedding. I use this all the time in my classes on that side, and it resonates fairly well. Uh, so let's just say we got an outdoor wedding. One of the major risks that was identified is going to be rain. Awesome. So how can we transfer this risk of rain? I can buy an insurance policy or something of that nature. How can we accept it? Well, I just accept it. If it rains, fine. If it doesn't rain, fine. I can mitigate it. In other words, I want to reduce either the probability and or the impact of the risk. How can I reduce the probability of risk? Well, I could open up my farmer's almanac and pick a day that is traditionally going to be drier. How can I reduce the impact? Well, I can have umbrellas on standby so that if it did rain, people can open up their umbrellas and perhaps save the day on that side. Or I can eliminate the risk. What do I mean by eliminate? No, just simply have it indoors. So, in other words, I can tame the risk. The plus 1 in this example, escalate, would be to tell higher, on those pieces on that side. One thing I do want to come back to, on the taming of the risk, and that is accept. Be mindful of your stakeholder. Be mindful of your stakeholder, and make sure that they are willing to accept. So again, just to interject a little bit of humor into this, let's go back to the outdoor wedding, and let's assume that my nephew-in-law is going to be married. Awesome. And he and his lovely fiance, they decide that they're going to have an outdoor wedding. Don't ask me why, but nevertheless, they're going to have an outdoor wedding. On the accepting piece, like I said earlier, if it rains, fine. Well, for me, that's not necessarily a problem. It's not going to impact my hair. I am the in-law. Now, I like and love the kid, and and the his fiance, and all of those areas, and those pieces. So, but if it rains, it's not necessarily going to ruin my day, on those pieces. Now, let's flip the script a little bit, and let's say that my wife, in other words, her nephew by blood, and, is she willing to accept that as a risk? The answer will be categorically no. Why? Hair, rain doesn't work. Been there, seen it, done it. So it will stop. Secondly, it's her nephew. And so, by heart and things of that nature, a little bit of a closer bond, on those pieces. And most certainly, he wants to make sure that her sister's son, her nephew, is having the most awesome day of his life. That doesn't mean, just for clarity, that I don't wish the same for them. But as you can tell, the closer you get to the individuals, to the core key stakeholders, the tighter, the more responsive you need to be. So please do take that out of love. Again, I don't want to get any trouble or anything of that nature. All right. So, just as a brief recap, we talked a little bit about risk. We talked about threats. We talked about opportunities. Remember to always think about opportunities because the risk may actually occur. In other words, the opportunity, and you need to be prepared for it. On the other hand, threats, normally we always take care of that. We want to transfer, accept, mitigate, eliminate, and then the plus one is going to be boy. Transfer, say, mitigate, eliminate, and the fifth one is going to be escalate. On those pieces. Well, this is awesome. If you're looking for more information on how to become a great project manager, don't forget to hit that like button and be sure to subscribe to John, the PM. Thank you and have an awesome day.